Hello, I'm Bruce Harders, and this is Voices in the Village, a program to inform and entertain. Today we have Carol Shallin with us, a 6-year resident of the Woods, and if you've ever gone to the Clubhouse 3 playhouses to watch any of the plays there by the Theater Guild or the Old Pros, chances are you saw Carol. One problem though, you would have never recognized her. And we'll go into that in a minute. Carol, thanks for coming and welcome to Voices in the Village.
Well, thank you, Bruce. I appreciate you inviting me.
Good. Getting back to my sly opener, Carol, how do you do it? I've seen you play a 13-year-old girl and a matron of all ages. How do you get into that mode? How do you do that?
Well, for me, I was originally a dancer, and so I look at the physicality of the character, whoever it may be. A young girl moves quite differently from an old lady. It was brought to me just in something I'm doing right now, that when I was just reading the lines, I was standing as Carol stands in a semi-ballet position, and yet the character is much more earthy. Well, as I realized, oh, that was because I didn't have the right shoes on. And shoes, acting comes from the feet up, I guess.
I guess so. Well, I would have thought you would have said something about method acting, that you get it in your head, but you get it in your feet and your legs. That's kind of interesting. Now, I understand that not too long ago, you got involved in impersonating Eleanor Roosevelt. You had a little one-man show, so to speak. Tell us about that.
Oh, it was a delight to do that. It actually was, I had a narrator who spaced the gaps between the periods of time that Eleanor, as an old lady, is talking about and remembering from her early childhood. Well, Eleanor, again, it's the physicality of the role. This is a lady, she's older, she was brought up very proper. She would always sit up straight. Her feet would, if anything, would be crossed at the ankles, if that. Also, she was a little bit heavier, so a certain broadness to the body and the way it moved. Beyond that, then if you want to talk about method, it's my method is to tell the truth. Whatever that character is, I have to tell the truth as from that character. She was talking about her remembrances as a child, and she had a very difficult time. Her mother was a socialite, was disappointed in her because she was not glamorous like the mother, and she called her Granny because she had a grandmother who was not very attractive. So you have a little bit of the remembrance of the hurt coming out as she's telling about it. Later on, she has this wonderful meeting with Franklin as a debutante, and he loved her. As a beginning, she was, in the early years, she was rather attractive. We look at her as in the older years where she became very matronly, but she was pretty, she had beautiful posture, long blonde hair, and was very intelligent. Mm-hmm. And so that's what attracted Franklin to her.
What do you think drove her? What was her inner id, so to speak?
She had gone to a private school many years before in England, and Madame Silvestri had taken her under her wing, took her to the continent, showed her all over the conditions that people were living in. And she never forgot that, having come from privilege herself, to realize how difficult it was for so many people. And when she came back to the States, she became very involved in many of the issues of the time to try to protect and encourage women, to give them better opportunities. And I think that was really the guiding post of her life, is I come from privilege, I must help others.
Well, I think growing up in that era, being a pretty young person, that's an impression certainly I always had, that she was doing good. I never was old enough to understand what that good was, but it came across in the way she talked and the way she looked. Now recently you participated in 2 quite different theater productions. One was Oi, and the other one was Meth, by some guy by the name of Shakespeare, I guess.
Oh yes. I remember him.
So tell me about Oi.
Oh, it was just an absolute delight. Theater Guild put that on, and what happened was we needed to spread the duties. So a bunch of us agreed to direct some of these little skits that comprised OI. I wound up with 2 skits to direct. One was Albert Einstein and his mother, which was really, really just darling. My favorite line in that is when the mother says, I guess you just have a different point, but everything's relative. And he says, let me think about that.
Well, I remember one of the funniest parts was certainly you playing Eve to Adam. That was a corker. But of course, that was a lot of fun and hilarity and all that. But talk about Macbeth. Now, that's serious stuff, right?
Oh, definitely. Macbeth is a tale of greed, ambition, people who are incited, I guess would be the word. Macbeth meets the witches, and they make prophecies. And the prophecies come true, some to the good and some not to the good. He winds up realizing that the witches and the apparitions that also appear, it's very spooky, were equivocators. They tell you one thing, they raise your hopes. But then again, it comes down to responsibility. You're told you will be king. Do you wait, or do you help it along and become king faster? Well, those are the decisions. It's like to be or not to be. You have to make your choices. Although Hamlet really didn't want to choose.
You sound like you enjoy playing Shakespeare.
Love it. It is so, I don't know why, but well, my favorite part of all that I've ever had to play is Puck in Midsummer's Night Dream. And that, you'd be totally silly, totally out of it. It's mischievous. It's just fun.
What do you think about the theory that a lot of people have that Shakespeare could have never written all those plays?
Well, somebody did, and I've listened to 2 schools of thought on that. I believe it's the Oxford theory that says it had to be somebody, a high-ranking person with a fabulous education to do all that he did. Others say, no, Shakespeare could have had those experiences. He was privy to the histories. A lot of the stories were based on Boccaccio. But you know what, when you get right down to it, who cares? Whatever it is, you have this beautiful body of work, and just enjoy it for what it is.
Right. Well, Carol, I know that you've done a lot of, you were a singer, and you've been a singer, and you were a dancer.
Definitely a dancer.
Dancer in what, Reno?
Yes. My first professional job was up in Reno at the Mapes Hotel, and it was the year that they shot The Misfits. What made it a lot of fun, it was one of the last of the old supper clubs where you would have entertainers come in. We had Milton Berle, we had Ken Murray and Marie Wilson. Lily St. Cyr was there when I was just brought up to replace somebody else. And we would rehearse all day, and then we would do the show in the evening. And we had to rehearse because we would change the shows normally every 2 weeks. When Milton Berle was there, we actually got a reprieve. We had 4 weeks before we had to change shows.
Interesting. Now, you don't consider, you weren't a showgirl, so to speak.
Well, no, I was really a dancer, although when you're in a chorus, sometimes they'll split it out, and the shorter ones will do certain routines, and they'll have the taller ones doing the showgirl bit.
Right.
And I have had 40-pound beaded gowns and a 1.5 foot tall feather piece on. So a little bit of showgirl.
Well, bottom line, if you had to choose between being a dancer and a actress, which would you choose?
Well, in my dancing, I act.
So you've got best of both worlds.
Really, yes. My favorite dance routine is to Ray Bolger's If I Only Had a Brain. And I'm a scarecrow, somewhat a little bit more dignified, a top hat instead of the Ray Bolger look. But it's that same thing, and joyousness, and the hat becomes a character in the dance itself.
Well, Carol, thanks so much for coming today. It's been great to hear all about the theater and the showgirl and the Shakespeare and all that good stuff. And for you out there, you come back soon. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.